I had to figure out this film industry, understand all these pathways to release. And when I got in and did the numbers on it and understood it, I was like, this is dumb and broken and I'm not doing it. While Hayley was making that film, I was planning the distribution. I was building the relationships, not at the point that we needed them, but way, way, way in advance. I'm like, I can get bums on seats. What do we need to do? Everything is just not set up to be able to do it in a healthy way. I got to the end of it and was like, that was too much for me. Like, I don't want to do that to myself again on my own.
Welcome to the podcast, Sam Jockel.
Yeah, thanks. Good to be here.
So you're a serial entrepreneur with expertise in community building across multiple businesses in the last 15 to 20 years, and that's now led you to producing the feature documentary Scene. You did a hybrid release for Scene, including through cinema on demand and streaming on demand. And now you've reached over 30,000 people and gone into profit after just 4 months, which is absolutely phenomenal. So why don't we just start with a bit of context? What is Scene and what is the film about?
It's a parenting documentary about the parent, not about the child. And that's a big difference. Historically, a lot of parenting things like your super nannies and all those kind of things have very much been about focused on the child's behaviour. Pre-Scene, I was the founder of Parent TV, which is a video streaming platform for parenting advice. Even though Parent TV is a video streaming platform, I would say I was more tech. I mean, there was no magic of filmmaking in anything. And I think this is important from the get-go for anyone who's in the film industry listening to this. Like, firstly, I didn't come from film. And secondly, I did not make this film because I wanted to be a producer of a film or I wanted to be any kind of filmmaker. I made this film because I saw a problem in my business that I needed to solve. And this, to me, made the most sense as I thought about what was needed and how that could play out.
Yeah. Can you dig into that a little bit more? Like, what was the problem that you saw? What was the business problem?
For Parent TV, I look at that and I feel like I built the what next. And so it's like I built the gym, but nobody actually knew that maybe they were overweight or unhealthy or like had some cardiovascular issues that they needed to like exercise to improve. Nobody knew that. Or nobody really believed it, or nobody felt the truth of that so much so that they were inspired and motivated and had a vision to get up and take themselves to the gym. Really, the film was like, all right, we need to create a piece of content that gives us vision and hope and possibility for this topic. Because it doesn't really exist. That's why I was like, this documentary needs to be made.
So the film itself, how did it come about? You worked with a director. How big was your crew and what was the process of getting it up and running?
Yeah, I think this whole thing is probably not super standard. So Hayley, the director, we'd worked together once before. She'd shot some like mini ads for Parent TV, probably like 3-4 years prior. She actually was the one who inspired the direction of a documentary. So I just got an email from her. Was I open to having a discussion? One of the reasons she came to me was because she knew that I had Parent TV and that I had distribution and that is really hard for filmmakers to try and get. So that was really smart of her, like right off the bat. She hadn't made a full feature documentary before, and she's thinking before she even starts, not about how do I get funding, but how do I get distribution?
Yeah, such a smart approach.
Yeah. So kudos to her for that. And so then we just started talking. I think I'd done some process work. I'd shared that with her and said, this is kind of what I see in the parenting space right now is probably the direction I'd go in. And she was like, actually, that's probably quite similar to the experience that I just had, like through my parenting with my kids. And so I think we both just had alignment on a sense of it's in this direction about this kind of thing. I reckon we talked for 3 months back and forward, and I had a little bit of spare cash sitting in Parent TV that I was open to kind of risking. Because of my network with Parent TV, I had been working with like experts for 10 years, and I knew the ones who were heading in this direction. So some of our experts are international, and there were two that were going to be in the country because I couldn't afford to fly them in to film for all of this. So I was like, Hayley, they're in the country in Brisbane. If we're going to do this, let's just start to actually film the interviews. And literally, I think from that conversation, we were filming 1 week later with Selena and Nathan. And yeah, I think I had committed, I don't know, about $60,000. There was a DOP, there was Hayley, there was a sound person, and there was me. So there were 4 crew in the room. At that point, Hayley and I were not taking any money. We did have an arrangement around what the payment would be if the documentary did make money to be able to pay us back. But all the crew were paid. Over the space of like 3 to 4 months, I think we filmed all the interviews. So there were 16 hours of interviews. I probably played the role of key support producer for Hayley for that first 6 months when we did all the interviews. But all those interviews and people were probably in some ways directly connected to me. So there was a sense of probably me just wanting to be there. But once that finished, that's actually when our big funding kicked in as well. That's when they went into the actual like edit and B-roll. So there was a lot of B-roll shooting. And that's when Sarah came in as a line producer, and Hayley we got some more money to then build out the crew a little bit more. Right at the start, though, which I didn't say, a person called Diana Fisk did sit with me for a weekend and do some impact producing work. She helped with the budget, helped put budgeting together. That was really good support as someone who wasn't in film. So I did this day where I literally just learned what I needed to learn and know what I needed to know. And then we mapped out some impact stuff because we also applied to Documentary Australia to get onto their platform so that the film could have DGR status for donations, which is where our money came from. All the work that we did with Diana was what then was submitted to Documentary Australia. But we were on the run. Like we were on our way, but that ended up being kind of why we even made the film in the end.
You had your own private investment coming from you personally and Parent TV. You had donations through Documentary Australia, and then you accessed PEP through Screen Australia as well. Is that everything?
Yeah, so they were the 3 main places. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I got to the point where I'd spent all the money that I was prepared to risk. And I was like, well, I think we're kind of done. Like, I can't actually risk any more money here because then I'm starting to put myself or the company at real risk. Like, when you're $60,000 down and you've got a bunch of interviews and content that doesn't make any sense for any purpose, that needs like another multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars, I was just like, okay, that was a fun experiment. And people were like, do an event, do like a fundraising event. You've got your Documentary Australia stuff, like do a fundraising event. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do a fundraising event and invite people and try and inspire them to want to support this project. I can tell you that fundraising event, out of all of the things, was the most painful thing that I had to do. Like, hard. It was hard. Like, the kind of hard that is like, I'm in childbirth hard. So I got this like really nice wine bar, spent $2,000. Like, it was like all the food, all the wine. Flew Joe up. I was there, director was there, Selena was there, who was our neuroscientist. Joe was our First Nations dad. It was nice. It was schmick. We had this like great trailer. I had like the full on pitch, but I had to get people there. And it was like, give us money. Nobody wants to come to things to give you money. So I was like, oh, like they really don't. And so literally like a month out, I'm like, every day, I'm just calling people, messaging people. And it was brutal. It was hard because no one gets back to you. It was just really hard for me to do that. And because when people ignore you, it feels like nobody cares, Sam. Like, why are you doing this? You kind of feel a bit worthless. You feel a bit they're the things that you're dealing with. Like, what does it mean when no one is showing up for the thing that you are really passionate about? And you have no control over that. And you're going to be left standing in that room either on your own with a small group of people or who knows what. And you're going to have to feel all of the feelings. And it could be shame or it could be embarrassment or it could just be sadness. And so actually like a bunch of people showed up. Like we had like serious people in that room, like the Queensland Child Commissioner and the CEO of Screen Quit. Like I actually pulled an audience. And I think we had $200 in donations. So I think I was down $1,800. So I was like at the end of this event, like it was good. It was perfect. It was a beautiful event. It was a beautiful pitch. Like I got to the end of that and I was like, I could not have done any more and that could not have gone any better. And yet, nothing. And so that was hard. Nothing at that point. Looking back, that event was very significant, but it wasn't significant for money. It ended up being significant for distribution. Those people saw us that day and they got on board, but they didn't have money to give us. They had other gifts that came along the way later down the line. And I was there asking for money, but something else happened and I just had to trust. So anyway, Lael, who's in the film, calls me and is like, how'd your fundraising event go? And I was like, oh, like, I think we got like $200 from someone who couldn't come. And felt bad. Like, this is real. And then she said, I'm catching up with someone tomorrow who I want to show the trailer to, who could be someone who potentially could be kind of a philanthropic funder / investor of the film if she was interested. I'll let you know how that goes. So the next day, I get an email from someone saying, hey, I just watched your trailer from Lael. Like, what do you need? So we had this really great investment funding pack. So I sent it to her. And then 2 days later, I got another email that just said, we're in. And you're going to have $325,000 in your bank account in the next 48 hours. Can you send me the details?
That's incredible.
Oh, no, I know. Right? I'd never met this person. She goes, I don't want anything. Just this film needs to be made. Like from her own story and experience. And then that just happened. And then that's when things got like super serious. Like up until that point, we were just fumbling along. But what I know, and maybe this is what I would tell filmmakers, I've been in business long enough to go, people won't back you if you don't back yourself. If you just go to people with a request that's so big, like, can you just save me? Because I haven't really done anything, but it'd be nice if you could just get someone else to come in and like make it really easy for me because I don't want to have to risk, but like it'd be great if they could on my behalf. That's where you'll just keep coming up wanting, right? Often I do the work unsuccessfully. The part was that I did the work. And during the process of doing that work, we had the sizzle reel and we had the investment pack and we had the pathway and we were on the documentary. And so all these pieces that you actually need were in place and ready to go right at the point where someone sees you and goes, I believe them. I'm happy to help. But if when you're asking for help, is before you've actually done any of the work yourself, before you've even shown that you're willing to feel the sting, not just asking them to feel it so you don't have to, that's where you'll just keep coming up wanting. And those people know if people have money, it's because they felt the sting. You need to build part of the thing first. I'm showing people what it is. I'm not just pitching an idea. We filmed the videos, like we filmed all of it. It's 16 hours of footage in hand. And so people believed me.
It's so true. Like any success story I've seen in the film industry, it's because people have been willing to put in the work and put the skin in the game in order to create that opportunity for themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I say all of that as well going. I mean, I should pull up a little bit because that's inspirational, Sam. I just would say that if you have a partner and you have children, like the level of attention this needs off you and care, and the level of what people who give money often need to see that you have for it as well is quite a lot. It's like nearly needs to be your obsession in a way that is unhealthy and unhinged, because that's generally what this asks like of you, which is a question mark in and of itself. But everything is just not set up to be able to do it in a healthy way. It's just not really, not when you're starting out. So now and that was my pull up part with Parent TV, was I realized that I was out of balance because of the other responsibilities that I had in my life that needed my attention. And if I kept going the way that I was going, that was causing harm to them, to my relationships and my kids. And it wasn't that I was cranky at them. It was just that they didn't have my time and attention like all of this other stuff did. And so I'm mindful in these places and spaces where people are trying to do big things. You really have to understand, who is this for? What is this about? And who is being harmed by this? Who doesn't have my attention because this does? Am I in balance with this? Is this the right time for me to be doing it? You know, I have a lot of peace around how that went, but I still feel like I got to the end of it and was like, that was too much for me. Like, I don't want to do that to myself again on my own. And that's my commitment. So I actually got a tattoo on my arm that says, that's enough now. And that was it. That was my commitment to myself, that I was not going to carry something that big on my own again in the way that I did as the producer, because I did it all the right ways and it was still too much.
And I think it's so important to hear that side of it, because so many people would look at you from the outside and go, oh, what a success. Look at everything they've achieved. They're in profit. They've got this huge audience. They've had a national tour. Like, isn't that the dream? Do you think that's the dream? Are you proud of the outcomes and the achievement, or would you not do it again if you knew what you knew now?
Oh, look, I am super proud. Like, it's the first thing in my life where I just look at and I go, that worked in all the ways I could have hoped. Like, I did my bit. So Hayley will have her story. She's the director about the actual film and the direction of film, and she's won awards. Like, she did her bit and it was incredible. Like, and I don't take any credit for that. My bit was the producing and probably distribution, and I'm the end-to-end person. Like, I see my role as the end-to-end, like right at the start, and I'm all the way at the end, and I am just here end-to-end putting all these pieces together. You don't just have success from making a film. Like, there's all these other things that go into it. So while Hayley was making that film, I was planning the distribution. I was building the relationships, not at the point that we needed them, but way, way, way in advance. Like, I knew what was needed. I feel privileged to have learned everything I've learned through this process. It was nearly too much for one person. So it's been very difficult for me to feel the joy of any of the success in this, because the weight of the role that I was playing was so all-consuming. So to do it again would be to do it in partnership, to be supported. And I'm having a bit of joy at the moment because the film has done well and it is giving me some space. I say I'm on long service leave. to rest. But part of that is also realizing what I just did to myself and how big that was as well.
So let's get into distribution. How did you choose your distribution model? Did you have a plan going into it, or was it an exploration process for you?
This is a big thing in all of it. I've been thinking more and more about this. Partly I know because I'm 20 years in business. Like, I have sat in rooms and done contracts with multi-million-dollar companies. Like, I know how to hold and I know how to do that. That is a whole piece of work you need to learn how to do, particularly when you're like the little person. It's all about knowing your value and worth, what you've got, and how to do that. And sometimes it goes all or nothing. So people can be like really extreme and just be the little guy acting like the big guy. And you're like, you don't do that. And you also don't want to come in and be like, oh my gosh, I'm just so grateful that you're even talking to me because, like, I'm me and you're Netflix and, oh my gosh, like, just take it all. Like, it is a skill that you do need to learn about how you hold yourself and think about what you've got, how you know who is on the other side of you, and how you do that in a way that feels like a fair exchange. And that is hard. And you get it right and you get it wrong. And it's only through like practice. Because I had to figure out this film industry, understand all these pathways to release. And when I got in and did the numbers on it and understood it, I was like, this is dumb and broken and I'm not doing it. What do you mean I make a $500,000 film and sell it to Netflix for $20,000 or $30,000 and they own it for 3 years and maybe show it, maybe don't, depends on how popular it is. Like, what? I was literally just like, what is this? So I just said, I'm not playing that game. But there were still things that I needed. So I understood Screen Australia and PEP, and I really wanted to have that support. I thought it would be good for the film. And I knew I could make this work. So I learned what the rules were and what I had to do to, be eligible for that. And I talked to them, called some people, asked about distributors, went to a couple. They were like, you're not really for us. And then I say all roads led to Jonathan from Bonsai Films. Like, the amount of people that were like, you need to talk to Jonathan from Bonsai Films. So I call him. I'm like, Jonathan from Bonsai Films. I literally just found his phone number and called him. Anyway, he picked up. I'm like, Jonathan from Bonsai Films. Everybody's, and he's like, mate, I'm really busy. So then we talked and he goes, you don't need my help. You're fine. You know what you're doing, like I can tell. And I said, no, I do need your help. I need your help because somebody says that if I don't have your help, they won't believe me. And he eventually was like, all right. I think it's because he was like, you're actually not going to be that much hard work. Because for him, he says, filmmakers come, give them their film, and then are like, why didn't you make the magic happen? Like, my job was just making the film. Like, you're now. And so he could tell that I'm like, mate, I'll do the work. Like, I know what this is. I just need your help. And it was so helpful. So he came on, we signed an agreement as a distributor for a cinema on demand. He got the Randwick on. And then I actually supported him in getting distribution. Like, I was calling cinemas. He was passing people over to me. Like, I was building community. I was on the job. We were filling those tickets for the Randwick. Like, I pushed all of that out through our experts. Like, it wasn't just book the gig. He needed me to help him prove to cinemas that we could get bums on seats. I'm like, Jonathan, I can get bums on seats. What do we need to do? So this is why I say it was hybrid. So one of the significant things was that roadshow release was not in cinemas. I think there were 2 cinemas. They were privately booked events. They were schools, childcare centres. Like 6 months prior to us releasing this film, I activated our entire network through all of our experts. And I was like, I had a Google form. It is the same Google form that is on our website right now after like a year, saying we are looking for venue partners for our roadshow release of Seeing the Film. We had like released the sizzle reel, not the trailer yet. If you're interested in being the capital city venue partner for the release of this film in Australia, fill out this form. And we probably had 100 schools, childcare centres, like fill out the form. And then I went through and just started contacting. Like, they gave us those venues for free. At every roadshow, there was a Q&A with experts and parents in the film. I paid them to come to those. I funded the flights, the accommodation. So that roadshow was a $60,000 expense. I didn't include myself in any of that. I always, I probably should. That's my downfall. But when I say that, that's not including me. Like, I'm still just free at this point, like doing all of this. So we actually did our roadshow before our cinema release. At that point, Jonathan, things were working and some of the cinemas were not getting back to him. He tried. He's like, they're just not interested in impact documentaries. And I'm like, are you okay if I talk to like cinema on demand? And at that point, he was like, well, there's not much more that I can do here. Like, I don't want to stop this person from being successful. If I've done what I can do and I'm getting blockers because no one wants impact documentaries because nobody believes people are going to show up. So then I call up old mate from Demand and I'm like, again, just pick up the phone. My name's Sam. This is what we're doing. Look, we've packed out our roadshow. I want to do this with you. We want to use Demand, but it's non-exclusive and it's non-negotiable. We're already on our way. There's money to be made here. Like, let me know. And then he came back and he said, you are the first person we've said we're not exclusive with, but okay. But I'm like, because the game's changing and so once we got to that roadshow, I literally very strategically had flyers printed out with QR codes, said, we're here, we're just doing this one roadshow, we're doing this one release in Melbourne. Like, tag you're it. If you love this film, if you want to take it to your community, if you think it could be valuable, you can do cinema on demand. You just need to sell, and at that point we'd done kinema as well. We have not released it for people to watch individually, but to do like community screening events with your own venue. So I have a venue or I need a venue. So I have a venue was go kinema, do community screening events. I need a venue was go demand. And then cinemas started picking it up through the distributor as well. So all of that was happening at the same time. And I had a website, I had seenthefilm.com, and I was just pointing, that was just, and again, I paid $5,000 or more for that website to be built and designed. If you go see it, it is beautiful and it was worth every penny because that website right there, I believe, is what made this film successful. All the dots were connected before we even set go. Like, I had this entire strategy that was put together that made it easy, but put all of the work onto the people in the room. I did my work of giving them all the tools, all the resources and everything they needed. And it was on them from that point to do something about that. And that is what I couldn't control. The only thing I could control was making sure they were set up in a way that made it really easy for them. Reduce friction, reduce friction, reduce friction. I had a 20-hour-a-week person I was paying at the point we started the roadshow who became like the support for community events, and she's still going. We've had over 850 people fill out that form. We've had probably 200-300 events happen already. But we have really clear systems and processes. We provide everybody with all the promotional materials that are completely branded. They send us their logos. But like we do that, it takes us 5 minutes to do one. We'll do Eventbrite if they need. We just duplicate the page. So we just, prior to starting, we set up all of the systems, processes, and templates for everything. And it was just duplicate, 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 duplicate. Amanda had that in hand like 15 hours a week, maybe 2-3 hours a day. For the scale of what we were doing, if people kind of knew, that's pretty incredible, but that's on the back of just good systems and processes, understanding comms, understanding flow, understanding all of those things. I've come to believe, having seen what I've seen and it worked, that this whole model of like one thing at a time is like, that does not work. And the pitch that I have for people when I would go into it now that I've seen what I've seen is, if this wins, we all win. This is about winning together. Not about, I need to make sure I've got my bit before it's your turn. Because that's the model. I need to make sure I have my bit before it's your turn. But it's become so hard because there's so much noise and it's so hard to get cut through. You actually have to have everything, this is my opinion, ready to go and available. The thing we didn't was just streaming on demand individually, but that's because the strategy that I had was community events. And that has worked very, very well for us. There's a lot of groups that this was relevant to, like hundreds of thousands of them. that could grab onto this, and that parents are used to going to a parent seminar on a Wednesday night for an hour and a half when Maggie Dent flies in. So going to see a documentary, they were used to that flow of showing up to, and people are used to going to the movies, but I wasn't pitching this as go to the movies. People loved seeing it in the movies, though. It was going to a parenting event that just so happened to be a documentary, and that they do, and they will pay $25 for that. They'll pay $35. They'll pay that much money if we can get like one of the experts or parents in. So I paid speaker fees to everybody who comes as well. Sometimes schools and people have flown in. So there's a whole bunch of business that's happened for everyone surrounding this on top of our revenue that is like outside of that as well. Plus we have seen the resources.com, which is a resource website that, again, like I was building that 1 year prior to launch of the documentary, which has also financially made money, which is Seeing the Parenting course, which is a follow-up course. We've got Seeing the Reflection Journal. We just self-publish that with they cost us $7 to print. We sell them for $20 plus postage, and we can just print on demand. So this was all just set up before, so I was working, so while everyone's like, I haven't even talked about the film. Like if Hayley was here, she'd be talking about the film. I'm talking about this bit because this is the bit that if you don't have somebody like me, I don't know how you do it. Like, because gone are the days of just handing it to a distributor and magic happens. I just don't think, certainly not for impact documentaries like this. And I had everything I had. I had all those networks to ask. I had all the experts to shout it out. I had all the parents to show up and be in the film because of the last 20 years of my life. Because of the trust that had been built. Because people knew who I was and they knew, because when we ask schools, can we come in? They're like, oh, that's Parent TV and there's Maggie and oh, we know, we can just trust this. We don't have to wonder who is this person. Maybe for big feature films, but then you'd have like millions of dollars for marketing budget anyway. Like I didn't have any of that because it said something that was new. It made people talk about it. It was like, well, that wasn't what I was expecting. But I say to people, I think about a lot of content these days like dessert. It's sweet and juicy and dopamine filled and we love it and we're just eating it over and over because dessert's amazing, but it's slowly making us sick, right? Our film is like the home cooked meal. It's like a beautiful lamb roast, but there's like vegetables on the plate and that's part of the deal. And you're going to have some broccoli and it's like you eat that and there are sometimes like, oh, I don't love broccoli. But you get to the end because you've been at the table and you've just been talking to people and we've been in this together and we've had this meal and you're like, that was actually really good. Thanks for reminding me that can be really good too. And so, I feel like the film is like just inviting people back to the dinner table.
We do have one question that we always finish the podcast on, an idea or suggestion that they think would change the film industry for the better. If you could pitch one thing, especially coming from outside the industry, what would that be?
I just feel like there needs to be some new models, some new distribution models, and some thinking around that. And I don't have the answers for that, but what I was told, I just intuitively knew that that's not going to work for me. There's nothing in that that's for me. Like I'm literally just worked my ass off to give this away for nearly free. Like that feels wild. So continuing to play in that space, continuing to invest in looking at that and supporting people who might be experimenting with that and not seeing that as a risky waste of money, but seeing that as that's the only way we actually find out and, pave new pathways. But definitely, I mean, that distribution piece I think is broken.
Thank you so much. It's been incredible to talk to you. I've learned so much and I'm so inspired by the amount of yourself that you have put into the last couple of years in this project. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me.
We Interrupt This broadcast is recorded on the unceded lands of the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation and the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains, and we acknowledge them as the traditional custodians and first storytellers of these regions. Always was, always will be.